Okay, so this week we are doing perimeter. So the perimeter is the distance around an object that is 2D. So we're going to start with distance around the sides of a shape. It is 1 dimensional. So if I had the shape, your perimeter would be this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this. Only the outside angle, not the inside. Okay? So then you have a square. When you have a square, the perimeter is 4 times the side. So P equals 4S. If you have a rectangle or parallelogram, your perimeter is 2 times your width plus your length, or P equals 2W plus PL, which is 2 times width plus 2 times length. Your other option would be for a parallelogram, which would be P equals 2 times your base plus your height. The perimeter of a circle is its circumference. Circumference is the outside, so it would be this line on your circle, the distance around your circle, and your circumference would be C equals pi times diameter, or C equals 2 pi times your radius. Your diameter is from one side of your circle to the next, so that's your D. And your radius is from the center of your circle to one side, so that is your R. If you have a triangle, a kite, or a trapezoid, you add up the sides. You may be able to find the slant or the edge by using the Pythagorean theorem. So adding your sides using Pythagorean, which is a squared plus b squared. Equals c squared. Your leg plus your leg equals your hypotenuse. And then you also have compound and irregular shapes where you're just adding up the side, either adding or subtracting partitions of area. So okay, so on to the next set. When you use a formula versus just adding the sides, so if you have a circle, a square, or a rectangle, you're going to use that formula. If you have a shape that is not typical, for instance, like this one, or like this one, that's when you would just add your sides. The perimeter of a 2D shape is the distance around it, is a linear measurement in one dimension. The simplest explanation of perimeter is the lengths of the sides added up. So, if you laid a rope along the edge of the shape, how long would the rope be? Is basically how you're going to think about it. For some shapes, there are formulas that you can use, like we talked about on the first page. All the sides of the square are congruent, meaning they're all the same. If the side is S, then the perimeter is P equals 4S. So, for example, if you have a square with a side of 5, that means every side is 5. Your formula is P equals 4 times S. So P equals 4 times 5. Your perimeter would equal 20. You could also do this by doing 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 20. Okay? Your perimeter is always going to be, so say this is 5 feet, it would just be feet, unlike area where you would have a squared. If you were missing a side and you want to find the perimeter of a square whose diagonal is 6 radical 2, so here's your square, right? I know it's not perfect, but it'll have to be close. This distance in pink is 6 radical 2. You're going to find out, you're going to use your Pythagorean theorem to find out what your two legs are. So, your Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared is your 6 radical 2. So you have a squared plus b squared. Because it's a square, we know both a and b are the same. So you're really only looking for one number. And when you add two squares, sorry guys, give me 1 second. So what you would actually end up with, because the sides are the same, so even though it would be a and b like this, we know that both of these are the same. So you would actually have 2a squared equals 6 radical 2. And then you're going to just solve. So in order to solve, you're going to go through your steps. You will end up with a, or your side, equaling 6. So then you're going to do your perimeter equals 4 times 6. Your perimeter is 24 units. Rectangles have two pairs of congruent sides, so basically here's your rectangle. That means that this side is congruent to this side, and this side is congruent to this side, or they are equal. Your perimeter is 2 times your base plus 2 times your height, or length times width, depending on how you want to use your wording. So if my rectangle has a unit of 2 there and a unit of 5 here, we would have perimeter equals 2 times 2 plus 2 times 5, which means my perimeter equals 4 plus 10. My perimeter will be 14 units. a rectangle of a dimension of 9 feet by 6 feet. So think about this. We're drawing our rectangle. We have 9 feet here by 6 feet here. That means this will be 9 feet and this will be 6 feet because they are congruent. Your perimeter equals 2 times 6 plus 2 times 9, which equals P equals 12 plus 18. P equals 30 feet. With a circle, things get a little more complicated because you have pi added in. For your assignments, you can just write it in terms of pi, or pi you could do 3.14, whatever you choose. So unfortunately there's a, or fortunately there's a formula for this. It's P equals D times pi, or P equals 2 pi r. Your P is actually your C because its perimeter and circumference are the same thing, so remember that. And then you're going to solve your answer by figuring out your radius or your diameter depending on. So remember, here's my circle. Again, I know it's not perfect, I'm sorry. My diameter goes across my whole thing. My radius only goes to half to the middle. And my circumference is this entire length around my circle. So, if you have the circumference of a circle with an area of 16 pi square inches, you need to know that your area equals pi r squared. So if you have 16 pi equals pi r squared, your radius is going to be 4. And we know this because the pi's cancel themselves out. You have 16 r squared, you're going to divide by, or not divide, you're going to do your square root of both sides. I'll get you r equals 4. And once you found the radius, you can do one of two things. You can do the diameter, or you can use circumference equals pi r squared. To get your diameter, you're just going to double 2 times your radius. So in this case, our diameter would be 8 inches. Our radius is 4 inches. Our circumference, or our perimeter around our circle, would be diameter times pi, so 4 pi, or 2 pi r, which would be 2 times pi times 4, which would equal this would be 8, which would still equal 8 pi. And this is an 8 because our diameter here is 8. Okay? So when you're doing the perimeter of a triangle, you're adding up the sides. 5 plus 15 plus 13 in this example. So you have your 5, your 13, and your 15. That equals 33. Super easy. When you are missing a value, so for instance, you have a right triangle and you are given 4 and 3, you need to find your hypotenuse. So again, this is your C in your Pythagorean theorem where you're missing value. You have a squared plus b squared, which are your legs, equals c squared. 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 4 squared is 16 plus 9 equals c squared. 25 equals c squared. C equals 5. So our missing length would be 5. Then to find your perimeter, you would do P equals 4 plus 3 plus 5. P equals 12. Now, when you have other shapes, using the Pythagorean theorem as well. So for example, if we have a parallelogram, so here's my parallelogram. I am going to draw a dotted line because now I'm making a triangle, a right triangle. I know that this is 3 and this is 3. If this and this is 3, this top line, which is the total length of that, will be 6. The first thing I need to do is figure out my height. So in this case, we know our area is 24 square units. So my area equals my base times my height. My base is going to be 6. So we have 24 equals 6 times h. Divide both sides by 6. Your height is 4. So once I have my height, I know that this is 4. I can now figure out this length. This length and this length are going to be congruent. So again, 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 16 plus 9 equals c squared. 25 equals c squared. 5 equals c. This length is 5. And now I'm going to figure out my perimeter by adding all of my sides. Perimeter equals 6 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5. So P equals 5 and 5 is 10, 6 and 6 is 12. That gives me 22 units. Sometimes shapes are a little bit more difficult. So in this case, it's asking you what the perimeter of the shape is. This is a rectangle cut with cutouts. Thus, the total left to right distance is the same everywhere as in the total vertical distance. Along the bottom, for example, the distance is the same as long as the top segment, which is made up of 3 segment lengths. So, basically what that is saying is this line, and this line is equal to this entire line. So we have 2, 3, and 2, which would be equal to 7, so we know this is 7. Same thing with the top. Here, here, and here is equal to here, so we have 7, 2, and 1, which would be 10. Now that I have the side all of my sides, big sides I should say, I'm going to look at these two little guys here and then here. They are going to be congruent to the sides opposite of them. So this line and that line will be the same, that'll be 4. This line and this line will be the same, that'll be 2, and now I'm going to add. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way clockwise around. I have 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 10 plus 7. I'm going to add all those up. Those will be my perimeter equals. I'm just adding all my sides. So 1 plus 4 is 5. That's 7, 11, 18, 20, 22, 25, 27, 29, 39, 46. P equals 46 units. We're going to do the same thing for the next section. So you're missing your value, you're finding the perimeter. We know that from here to here is 3, which means from here to here is 3. 2 and 1 makes 3. There's my missing side there. This side is the same as this side, so we have a 2 here. This side is the same as that side, so we have a 1 there. Our 4 is the same as this side plus this side, so we have a 3 there. Again, you're just going to add. Perimeter equals 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3. That's all my sides, so we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 14, 16, 17, 20. My perimeter equals 20. On to the next page. So, next, you can find the perimeter of a compound shape by following general principles of adding up the sides. You may use some formulas. It will likely help to break up the complex shape into identifiable shapes. So, for example, if you have a square, here's actually, we're not going to do it that way. I'm just going to free draw it. Here's my square, but in my square a circle is cut out. You have to figure out what the perimeter is. So here we have a length of 4. This will allow us to figure out the perimeter of the entire shape, okay, just by having that one side. First, figure out what the perimeter of just the square would be. So if the square was completed, what would the perimeter be? So P would equal 4 times 4, because we know it's 4 times the side. So your P would equal 16. That's step 1. Step 2, you would figure out what the perimeter of the circle would be, because you need to know actually, let's backtrack. There's an easier way to do this. I always go to show you guys the more complicated ways. So we know 4, we know this is 4, and we know this is 4, right? We also know that the diameter is 4. 4, 12, or 4, 8, 12. So far we have 12 for our perimeter, but now we need the perimeter of this circle, or this half a circle. So if you figure out what half of the perimeter, so half of 4 times pi is, there would be your answer. So you have P equals 12 plus 2 pi equals your perimeter, and then P equals 18.3 units. So you can put 2 pi right into your calculator, or you can use 3.14, whatever works. So remember, pi equals 3.14. So next, we have this lovely triangle in a half circle, with AB equaling BC. So that's saying that this line and this line are equal to 4. So here's a 4 here and a 4 here. And it's a right angle. They're giving you all this information. And D is the center of the semicircle. So D is your center. Find the perimeter of the shape made from the line segments AC and the arc. So it wants you to find this perimeter. In order to find that perimeter, you first have to find out what this length is. We use the Pythagorean theorem to do that. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 4 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared. 4 squared is 16 plus 16 equals C squared. 32 equals C squared. 32 cannot be simplified any further. It's not a perfect square root, so you will end up with 4 radical 2 equals C. So this length is 4 radical 2. Once you've done that, you need to figure out your arc. So it would be your perimeter equals 1/2, because you're figuring out your arc and it's only half the circle. 1/2 4 radical 2 times pi, because that would be your diameter. Okay, so P equals 2 pi. 2 pi radical 2 for your arc. So this is the perimeter of your arc. And you're going to add that perimeter to the perimeter of this line, or to the length of this line. So your full perimeter of the entire shape will be 4 radical 2 plus 2 pi radical 2, which equals 14.5. So, last check, what can you find a perimeter for? You have a square, a rectangle, or a circle, triangle, and compound shapes, or parallelograms. So, Jonas sets out cones in a triangle for a race. He wants the race to be at least 200 meters. The distance between the cones are 42, 108, and 55. Does he need to move the cones? So here's your triangle. You have 42, 108, 55. He wants them to be at least, meaning 200 meters or more. So if these are all in meters, you have 42 plus 55 plus 108. 42 plus 55 is 97, plus 108 would give us 200. What did I say, 97? And 5? I think I did that math right. Did I do that math right? We'll see in a minute. 108. Oops. Yep, 205. 205 meters. Does that work out? Yes, it does. So he does not have to move the cone. Weston's bathroom is 5 meters long and 10 meters wide. He wants to add a strip of molding at the base of the wall. A strip of molding will cost 75 cents per meter. How much will it cost him? So here's his room, right? He's going to add the molding around the entire room. So you have 5 meters and 10 meters. This means he has a total of 30 meters is his perimeter. I figured that out by doing 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5, which equals 30. Now I need to take this amount and multiply it by 75 cents. So you have 30 times 0.75, which would be his total cost. Which would be $22.50. That is his total cost. Terry has a large rectangular sandbox. The sandbox is 12 meters long and 8 meters wide. She wants to surround the sandbox with a new piece of wood. She already has 10 meters of wood. How many more meters of wood will she need? So again, here's your rectangle. You have 8, you have 12 meters. You can do perimeter equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. P equals 2 times 12 plus 2 times 8. P equals 24 plus 16. P equals 40 meters. If she already has 10 meters, you're going to subtract that. So 40 meters minus 10 meters equals 30 meters. She needs 30 meters of wood. Hope that answers all your questions. Have a great day.